Welcome back. In this new video, I'm going to be sharing an interesting assessment, let me say, that it happened to me to watch on the Financial Express YouTube channel. And this assessment has been made by a very famous economist, academic, and the United Nations advisor, Professor Jeffrey Sachs. And this assessment has been about Donald Trump, and I want to share it with you. I have a full transcript of this assessment, and I want to share with you because it's extremely interesting. So get him out of there before he kills us all. Such Trump warning. Jeffrey Sachs delivers a blistering assessment of Donald Trump, arguing that the president's leadership and use of power raise serious concern about the state of the American politics. Sachs describes Trump in deeply critical terms and argues that the larger problem goes beyond one individual. He says Trump is also a symptom of what he calls a deeply corrupted political system, pointing to presidential world powers, Congress, checks and balances, and Americans' long-running foreign policy. Sachs also sharply criticizes media coverage of Trump, questioning what he sees as the normalization of increasingly extreme rhetoric and decisions. He challenges journalists and political leaders to ask harder questions about presidential power, accountability, and the consequences of American foreign policy. The wide-ranging discussion touches on Trump's rhetoric, Iran, presidential authority, Congress, the security state, media coverage, and the broader political system in Washington. And here is Jeffrey Sachs' forceful assessment of Donald Trump and the state of the American democracy during his interview with the Financial Express YouTube channel. This is a full transcript. First of all, things are opaque, as is obvious, because we don't have a word of honesty from the United States government or from the Israeli government. Everything is propaganda, morning till night. Also, any statement by Donald Trump contradicts itself before the end of the sentence. So it's absolutely impossible to even understand on his own terms, much less on geopolitical terms. So the situation is very strange, very dangerous. I think probably the most dangerous moment in the world since World War II, probably even including the Cuban Missiles crisis. I say that with two psychologists. I'll say it, you are not responsible for me. Maybe you regret that you invited me. But I think Donald Trump is literally mentally ill to a very serious extent. Is from a personality point of view, the malignant narcissist, I think is the right definition. Or if you want a more classical diagnosis, a dark triad personality, which means that he is personally narcissistic. He is Machiavellian, which means that I think psychological terms that is manipulative, untrustworthy, deceitful, and is a psychopathic, meaning that there is no empathy for how many people he kills or how much damage is done. The malignant narcissist definition adds paranoia and confabulation to this list. So I personally think we are dealing with a psychologically deeply debilitated individual who happens to have a lot of power. And according to one psychologist I was listening to yesterday, that I thought made a lot of sense, there is an element of frontotemporal dementia added to this, that you see through the incoherence of the sentences, the drift of thought, and even the confusion of the words, so that the words don't even end as they begin. But in any event, that there is a real sign of a dementia on top of what is a lifetime of anti-personality disorder. A man like this should not be president. This is the most basic point. He is a president because of a much deeper problem in the American political system. So is a symptom as well as a cause. You don't elect a person like this in an healthy political system. The American political system is deeply corrupted. The ability of a man like this to have the power that he does to order a war is profoundly broken political order. It has nothing to do with our constitutional system, where only Congress has the ability to declare war. We are so pathetic right now in our politics that the only thing Congress does is vote repeatedly that they don't want to have anything to do with overseeing this year. It's not a choice that they have under the Constitution. It's a complete abnegation of responsibility. How can the Senate say now in 3 votes, don't ask us, it's none of our business? That's just Mr. Trump's business. That's exactly what the United States Senate has said. So I think that there is a very particular circumstances right now. My own feeling is that Trump is actually, again, now I'm a completely amateur psychologist, but it seems to have deteriorated and lost any kind of self-control in the last 3 or 4 months. So there is a degree of impulsivity, which is absolutely beyond anything that I've seen before. By the way, this is the second time in a row that we have had a president suffering from dementia. And what's interesting also is that with Biden, who had a dementia for the last 2 years, at least on his administration, it was all covered up until he stood there gaping in front of a camera, drooling to all of the American people watching in a debate, and no one could hide it on camera. My country is pathetic right now. In the political system, it's a show, it's a PR. Anything can get said. There is no planning. There is no systematic review. There are no checks and balances. There is nothing. And this was true with Biden, but it's much worse with Trump. Biden was not a nice person. I've known him for about 30 years. He's never was a nice person, but he was not like Trump, with a deeply antisocial personality disorder. And so I just want to say we are dealing with psychology here in the most individual sense. This is denied every moment of a public discourse. It's just amazing. Take what happened in the last 3 days. First, the president said, I'm going to blow up everything. I'm going to kill all of you. That's normal, this. Oh, then you have the commentators. Oh, will he kill everybody? Well, that's an interesting question. Not. Are we in the hands of a madman? Nothing like that. No one commentary says that a little strange for the President of the United States to be talking like that. Talking sorry, like Adolf Hitler. No, not even a mention that this is a little strange. Then, 2 days later, when he decides he's not going to kill everyone, he says, oh, we are close to an agreement. And of course, there was no negotiation period. But what does the press say? Oh, well, will Donald Trump be able to get an agreement? Not what alone. What a liar. Nothing. It's a complete normalization of something completely abnormal. I've never seen anything like this. Who is crazier, Trump or us? How can we not be grown-ups and say that man's alone? Get him out of there because before he kills us all. Nobody says this. Sorry, this is not a partisan statement. I've hated all our recent presidents because they don't make us safe. They don't tell the truth. But this is something absolutely different what's happening right now, and it's all normalized. And the New York Times story today, all I do these days is I write letters to the reporters whom I've known for a decade, and they don't write back because they don't have the dignity to get into a serious discussion on anything. Sometimes, by the way, they write back and say, yeah, I agree with you, Jeff, but I perhaps edit my article. So that's the main thing, that it's completely shut down of the truth at the New York Times, which used to be my go-to place to get just a straight story. It's useless, completely useless right now. I may disagree with Jeffrey Sachs on this point because I consider the New York Times a very free, independent newspaper, and it happened to me. I have a subscription with this paper. I read, a lot of articles, and I may say that sounds not true to me. This is my personal opinion. By the way, this story was yes. Will Donald Trump be able to negotiate a deal without mentioning how weird it is that there were no negotiation, but he said that they were. That's a real story over the last day. That's the real interesting story. Where they negotiated. Where is the negotiation? The story said this is David Sanger. He's an experienced journalist, 40 years. He says, well, Donald Trump didn't tell us who he was negotiating with. David, come on, are you serious? You are going to write that to me? He didn't tell who he was negotiating with. Maybe, David, he wasn't negotiating with anybody. Maybe he made it up. Can't you ask a question as a grown-up writing for the New York Times who's been doing this for 40 years? So I wrote to David this morning. I will not hear back from David. I've known David for probably 40 years because they don't talk, because we are in really a crazy land right now where anything goes, and the whole story is, well, what will Donald Trump do next? As if this is a spectator sport, not your life and not my life. I'm more interested when are they going to take him away before he does more harm to us. When is some grown-up going to say this is a very bad idea? Okay, so that's the immediate issue, but the system is more deeply broken. There are no checks on presidential power to launch wars, and there haven't been for decades. Actually, Congress basically doesn't exist when it comes to foreign policy. It basically doesn't exist because we live in a security state. Foreign policy is carried out by the CIA, the National Security Agency, the National Security Council. It's not carried out by anything resembling democratic institution at all. You may say, of course, Jeff, I had to come here to learn that. But it's rather alarming, actually, because it's not only 2003. We are not stop wars, not stop. It's not just the Iraq war. And this is the interview, the assessment of Jeffrey Sachs I want to share with you in this video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye. See you in the next video.